Hello and welcome back to Thecrimereel. So today we continue with 7 videos in 7 days. We shall be visiting the continent of Asia for our true crime story. Asia is the biggest of all the continents, both in terms of size and population, and it is home to both the highest and lowest points on the surface of the earth. Before I start the story, I would like to apologise for the lack of pictures to go alongside this story, but as you will hear, all of the people involved have remained anonymous, so it has been impossible for me to source any photographs. The 7th most populated country in Asia is Japan, and our crime narration today has come from Toshima City, one of the 8 central wards in the Tokyo metropolitan area. Sugamo is a neighbourhood in Toshima located in the northern area of Tokyo. It was in this neighbourhood in July 1988 that a landlord called the police about one of his tenants. A woman had moved into his building the previous September with her teenage son. The landlord hadn't seen the woman since the beginning of the year and had received no rent since February. When the police arrived on Sunday, July the 17th, a teenage boy opened the door to the apartment. The police asked to speak to his parents, and the boy informed the police that his parents were not there. When questioned as to his parents' whereabouts, the boy told the police that he did not know his father and he hadn't seen his mother since January. Obviously concerned, the police went in to investigate further. The teenager was not living alone. Also in the apartment were his 2 younger sisters aged 7 and 3. All 3 of the children were severely malnourished. The apartment was very dirty. There was food remains and waste everywhere, and a foul smell in the small living space. As police tried to gather more information from the teenage boy, asking him to write down his name and that of his sisters, they soon realised that he was illiterate and suspected that he had never attended school. The boy eventually gave details of his siblings, all of which had the same mother but different fathers. None of the fathers were involved in the children's lives. However, he not only gave his own name and that of his 2 sisters found at the apartment, but also details of another brother and another sister who were nowhere to be found. Due to child privacy laws, we do not know the names of the children. However, their details were reported in the press as follows. Child A, the teenage boy, was born in 1973. Child B was a girl born in 1981. Child C, a boy, was born in 1984 who was missing. Child D was a girl born in 1985. And Child E was a girl born in 1986 who was also missing. When the landlord of the building was asked to provide more information about the family who lived in that apartment, he advised that he had no knowledge of anyone apart from the mother and the teenager who became known as Child A. Due to the size of the apartment, he would never have agreed to rent it to a larger family and had no idea that additional children lived there. It is believed that they may have been hidden in suitcases when the mother and eldest son moved in. Further investigation revealed that none of the children had been legally registered, leading the police to believe that they had probably been born outside of a hospital and had never been to school. It was only Child A who was allowed to leave the house, usually to run errands to assist his mother. The police took the 3 children away from the apartment while a search was conducted. Hidden in a cupboard, they found the skeletal remains of another young child. It was established that the child had been dead for some time and would have been around 2 years old at the time of their death. The child was subsequently identified as Child C, a boy who had been born in 1984 and who would have died around 1986. As the family moved into that apartment in late 1987, they would have brought this young child's remains with them. The youngest girl, Child E, was still missing. Child A was interviewed at length to find out what had been happening over the previous few months. In October 1987, about a month after moving into the apartment, his mother informed him that she would be going to live with her new boyfriend and that he would be in charge of the apartment and his younger sisters. Child A was 14 at the time. His mother gave him around 50,000 yen, which is equivalent to around £215 or $400 at the time, and promised that she would return to check on them. At first, the mother stuck to her word and would return every couple of weeks to drop off a little extra money. But by January 1988, she had tired of this obligation and visited for the last time. At this point, she also stopped paying the rent on the apartment and the utility bills. By the time the police found the children over 6 months later, they were living without water or power. The children's plight received extensive news coverage, and as a result of this, the children's mother turned herself in to the police on the 23rd of July 1988. The 40-year-old woman told police that she had wanted to get on with her life and that her children had prevented her from doing this. She was arrested and charged with child abandonment. When questioned about her children, she provided the names and dates of birth for her 2 sons and 3 daughters, confirming that none of the births had been registered, so officially the children did not exist. She told police that her second son had died at the age of 1 back in 1985. She advised them that he had choked and died. Then she had put his dead body into a plastic bag inside a suitcase. Whenever the family moved home, they would take the baby's remains with them. By the time the police found the children in 1988, they had been living with their dead sibling for over 3 years. The mother had no idea that her youngest daughter, which was 2-year-old child E, was missing. Child A eventually provided all of the details as to what had happened to his youngest sibling. He explained that there were 2 young boys in his local neighbourhood that he had become friends with. These boys were both 12 years old and again cannot be named. These friends would often go to the apartment to hang out with child A. However, friend F and friend G did not like child A's 3 younger sisters, reportedly finding them very annoying. On one particular day, child E had become particularly distressed and kept crying. The friends F and G became irate with her and started to punch her in an attempt to get her to be quiet. Of course, this just upset the 2-year-old girl further. The 2 friends continued to beat the tiny girl until she was eventually quiet. They had beaten her to death. The friends left, and not knowing what to do, child A continued to live in the apartment with child B and D, along with the body of child E. After about a week, child E's body started to decompose and smell. Child A found friend F and asked him to help get rid of the girl's body. The 2 boys then put her into a bag, took her to a nearby forest and buried her. Friend F and G were arrested by police and charged with murder. Due to their ages at the time of the crime, they were sent to reform school, where they remained until they reached adulthood. The 2 remaining girls, child B and child D, were sent to an orphanage. It is unknown if they were kept together during this time. It was determined that child A had not been involved in the murder of child E. He was not in the apartment at the time of the killing. He was charged with helping to dispose of the child's body, but further than that was seen as a victim of the entire situation. He was remanded to a facility which cared for children with special needs, where he would remain until he became an adult. The mother was found guilty of child abandonment and in October 1988 was sentenced to 3 years in prison. In a truly shocking turn of events, after she had completed her 3-year prison sentence, she was allowed to regain custody of her 2 remaining daughters. These 2 young girls, who would have been around 10 and 6 years old at that time, were placed back into the care of the woman who had caused them so much harm. That concludes the story of Sugamo's abandoned children. Just to let you know, tomorrow's video will be released 3 hours later than usual, as it's Briefcase Day. So go grab your episode of Briefcase, and then if you don't mind popping back for me, that will be great. Please leave any comments down below. As always, I'll try and read them and respond to them if possible. Thanks very much for listening to The Crime Reel. Stay safe. Goodbye. There was a film made in 2004 called Nobody Knows. It is very loosely based on the events detailed here. However, it is a fictionalized account which is far less traumatic than the true events. Goodbye.